dance to the sound with Steffi. Let's dance. Put on your big boy pants.
Big boy pants on. Good morning, Malcolm Nance.
Good morning, Steffi.
Malcolm Nance, as seen on CNN this morning.
That's right.
10 out of 10, room rater. Malcolm, I mentioned this story already earlier, but this is why I'm wearing my Ukraine T-shirt for you, for democracy. This story has your name written all. I don't know if you saw this. So RFK Jr. is on Fox News doing a town hall with Sean Hannity. He once again blamed the United States for Russia's invasion of Ukraine, this time in front of a Fox News audience that cheered his remarks. He said NATO's expansion after the Cold War prompted Russia to become increasingly defensive and ultimately hostile. He urged Joe Biden to broker a peace deal to end the war. Sean Hannity said, so to appease Putin, who I think is evil, they've already given up Crimea. It was annexed. So what? They have to give up the Donbass area? Kennedy said Ukraine, because of our pushing Ukraine into the war on two occasions. Hannity said, we pushed them into it, or did Putin invade? Kennedy said, we don't want peace. We want war with Russia. A substantial portion of the audience cheered. Hannity said, why are you blaming America's role in this? Oh, my God, this is the worst thing that's happened in the Trump era, is I agree with everything Sean Hannity said. What is happening? Oh, my God. Can you explain that whole thing to us? I've made Malcolm Nance speechless.
On the table.
Oh, go ahead.
Robert F. Kennedy is mentally ill.
Yes.
I mean, he's got a lot. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Yes.
has got a lot of issues going on here. He was recruited by Steve Bannon and Roger Stone. Done. That's all.
Hakeem Jeffries said he's a walking false flag operation. I mean,
he is a false flag operation. How he can even say that he's a Democrat, I don't know if you guys saw on Twitter yesterday, somebody posted up a Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Tulsi Gabbard ticket.
Oh, yes.
Of people who are supposed to come in and spoil for the Democrats to get those extremist far left Bernie voters, most of whom who voted for Trump anyway, twice. So I don't know what he was on about, because I know the history of this. I've lived part of the history of this. Some of the things that were not mentioned in there, like the facilitation of taking Crimea, was assisted by a consultant called Paul Manafort. All right?
Yep.
Donald Trump's campaign manager later. They all worked for Putin. In my first book, The Plot to Hack America, I called these guys the Kremlin crew.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely amazing that it was so easy to call before the 2016 election that all of them were working in Russia's interest, including Donald Trump. Ukraine didn't invade anything. Ukraine was invaded twice now. And for Robert F. Kennedy to say, well, America starts and America loves war, and he's talking to a Fox News audience that loves it, that supposedly at the same time loves the armed forces with all of their heart. These are the same people who cheer killing cops and taking over the Capitol, destroying the Capitol Hill police force, and defunding the FBI and the Department of Justice, and then say, we back the blue. These people are walking, talking hypocrites, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is now the good liberal that they like.
Yeah.
Oh, did I mention liberal? Get that word out of my mouth. That guy is a Republican plant.
Yeah.
It's designed to take away votes from Joe Biden. But I really think he's going to take away votes from Donald Trump because they love him so much.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of around the world, you retweeted intellectualist who said Netanyahu has done more damage to Israel than any external enemy ever could dream of. He has destroyed Israel's tenuous social ecosystem for power. I was saying that Rachel Maddow did a great, piece on this, that, yes, autocracy is sprouting up around the world, but the other big story is the resistance to it. If you look at what's happening there, and we always have to remember that's what you get shouty about. It's about turning out and voting, about democracy everywhere.
I was on public radio here in New York State on Monday, where I do a 2-hour radio show, and I talked about it. I always say, full disclosure, I was raised in an Orthodox Jewish neighborhood in Philadelphia, almost married an Israeli, lived in Israel, been to Israel. And what I see is a completely different country now. I see a country that, because they don't have a constitution, they have literally started to dismantle for the religious bodies who don't serve in the armed forces, the extreme ultra Orthodox who essentially are turning Israel into a micro theocracy. Mm-hmm. Now, don't quote me for that. Quote the Israelis. There are hundreds of thousands of people who have been turning out almost every day to protest the dismantling of the independent judiciary, the dismantling of coalitions that could, bring Israel back to its moderate roots. Two things, in my reckoning of this, really lent a hand to that. One, in the late 1980s, early 1990s, Russian Jews started emigrating from Russia without any regard to their background, and it militarized a lot of the Israeli politics. One of the first terrorist acts that I thought that I was around was a hand grenade attack in Ashdod, which we thought was a terrorist attack, and it turns out Russian mafia gangs had just moved into town that week and were setting their pace by throwing hand grenades into other discotheques. And from that point onward, we saw this slide. And then the rise of the ultra right-wing religious extremists in Israel who have now decided to turn Israel into an apartheid state. I'm sorry to say it, but that's what's happening.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's talk about the resistance to it. I mean, let's talk about happier domestic news, and that is Donald Trump being arrested again this week. Anytime now.
Gosh.
There's a lot of developments. I'm wondering, what you think are most significant, but clearly they're looking at this whole plot, right? Not only are the governors, that have state by state been interviewed by Jack Smith, but also, Chris Krebs, obviously these election security that he was told multiple times this election was the most secure in our history. There was no fraud, blah, blah, blah. How are you feeling about everything you've heard on the J6 case?
Well, and this is where I'm going to get a little cautious for you. Okay, because I always say when we get these warm, fuzzy feelings, that's about where trouble begins. There was a brilliant piece, I believe it was in the New York Times, about the Trump future, Israel's transition away from a democracy towards authoritarianism and fascism is a glimpse into a Trumpian future of America. If we screw up, yes, there is a resistance to the rise of global fascism. Yes, there is a resistance, certainly in Israel, which has great history as the only democracy in the Middle East. Now apply what you're seeing there to the United States, where the leader doesn't care about your laws. The leader doesn't care about the courts unless they rubber stamp what he says. The leader doesn't care that 100,000 of you protest out there. This is why we are so concerned for our sister state Israel, because it is a future template for the United States. Should Trump not get into power, get remotely close to power. His allies already are bringing this about. Our resistance has to ramp up to Israel level, to where people don't come out once. Remember the last major march we had, January 2017? We don't do that. We don't protest. Yes, we are starting to turn out to vote, but now we have to really bring the global or the American wing of the resistance to fascism to its great fruition come up 2024. You may have a guy who is literally a convicted felon, all right, who technically might not be able to vote in his own election because felons can't vote in Florida, and come back as president of the United States.
Yeah. I mean, I was saying, and also everything you wrote about in your first book, I was saying it's all the wild cards, the Joe Manchins, the no labels, the RFK, and I said, Russia's going to back him. It's everything you wrote about. Just fill in the names, with Bernie, Jill Stein, whatever, just change the names up, in terms of third party runs, God knows whatever factors, AI, throw that in there. Right.
Well, in my last book, They Want to Kill Americans, I'm telling you, I am shocked that book, everything in it, is coming around again. we are seeing them, the Republican Party, now completely embrace the people who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. We are seeing a lot more chatter about getting more guns and getting more ammunition on the right-wing extremist world.
By the way,
we are seeing a lot more talk. Peter Navarro, I don't know if you're going to bring that up.
Yeah,
talking
about civil war.
Civil war.
Yeah.
Now saying it openly.
By the way, the best meme I saw was the Jason Aldean lyrics about spit in a cop's face, desecrate the flag, try that in a small town, and it's like images of January 6th. That's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
They tried that in a big town, and guess what? They're going to prison.
They should play that video, the song, over the video of January 6th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. They tried it in a small town. Washington, D.C. is 500,000 people, less population than North Dakota, South Dakota, or any of those other states out there. And they sought to overthrow the government of the United States. And they're proud of it. They're proud of it. And again, if we don't pay attention, the good things that do happen, Trump gets indicted for the third time this week, doesn't matter. This is how Netanyahu has kept himself out of trouble. He is the longest running leader in Israel because he changes the laws. He changes the rules. He gets coalition of people who will get rid of the laws for him. Yeah. Donald Trump is banking on this.
Yep.
And once again, we're at the point where we have to say the 2024 election may be the election that decides whether the United States exists as a democratic republic again.
Chris, you're going to have to ride those decibel levels as Shouty McShouterson gets closer to the 2024 election. Because
I know. I'm prepared.
All right. Love you, Malcolm Nance.
And Substack.
Substack and Black Man Spy, the podcast. We've linked to everything at stephaniemiller.com. Love you, honey. See you, sailor. 46 minutes.